Mr. President, then why would we hold hostage bipartisan legislation that would simplify from 108 questions to 18 to 30 the FAFSA, the federal aid that 20 million families fill out every year in this country unnecessarily? Why are we holding that hostage? Why are we holding hostage the legislation introduced by Senator Portman and Senator Kaine and co-sponsored by Cardin, Gillibrand, Hassan, Klobuchar, Stabenow, Baldwin? These are all Democrats, Mr. President. Brown, now here's a Republican, Capito, Coons, Ernst, Jones, Moran, Shaheen, Sinema, Smith, Wicker, and Braun. This is legislation that we all agree on, or at least that many, on short-term Pell Grants. And then we have Senator Grassley, Smith, Cassidy, Ernst, Hassan, Jones, Klobuchar, Manchin, and Rubio would like to simplify the federal aid letter so you don't get a letter in the mail if you're living in Maryland or Tennessee and think you've got a grant that you don't have to pay back when in fact it's a loan that you do have to pay back. We also agree on increasing the maximum Pell Grant. And we also agree on how to pay for it. And we also agree on permanent funding for the historically black colleges and institutions in a way that the Budget Committee can easily approve and that can pass the Senate. So if we can agree on all that, and it all helps students at historically black colleges and minority-serving institutions, then why don't we pass it? Why don't we do that? Why do we come up with a short-term, gimmick-supported, House-passed bill that sets up a new cliff? Why don't we take a permanent funding with a Budget Committee-approved way of paying for it and do some other things that we've been working on for 5 years in a bipartisan way? This is not an Alexander proposal. This is a package of proposals by 29 senators, 17 Democrats, and 12 Republicans. It's ready to pass the Senate. It's ready to be worked on with the House of Representatives, and it's ready to be signed by the President of the United States. Now, let me add to this. The Secretary of Education, and people seem to overlook this, has written all the presidents of the historically black colleges and said, there is enough money in the bank to pay for all your funding until next September. So we have nearly a year to do this the right way instead of the wrong way. We're not on vacation. I know everybody's talking about impeachment, but we have lots of students around this country who would like to have a simpler way to go to college. We have lots of historically black institutions and minority-serving institutions that would like to have a permanent method of funding. We have lots of employers and potential employees who want a short-term Pell Grant. The simplifying of the FAFSA would actually add, according to the Congressional Budget Office, 250,000 Pell Grants, and it would increase the number of Americans who are eligible for the maximum Pell Grant. All that's ready to go. All that's ready to go. So why don't we do that instead? So I thank the senator from Maryland for giving me an opportunity and a reason to bring up my package of bills with permanent funding of the historically black colleges and universities, paid for not by a gimmick, but by a Budget Committee approved method that President Trump and President Obama both had in their budgets. And I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions be discharged from further consideration of S2557, that's my bill, and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. I ask unanimous consent that the bill providing permanent funding for historically black colleges and universities and other matters be considered read the third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.